because there is so much consistency with things and like through lines where having gone through 15 years of WoW where things change just cause it drives me crazy. And so to come to a game where they're like, we have thought about this and this is what it is and it will be this, and you're like, thank you.
And we future planned.
I'm still waiting to see what happens with the Tataru. Like, what the heck is going on there? Like, there's been like when you talk about through lines, it's me the reading into it, or there's reason she's on the poster.
Why are you reading into it? Because like she did a wry smile like 2 expansions ago. Like, what is your reading into with Tataru? With dear
it's
sweet,
that
perfectly innocent,
that
100%.
wry smile like has sat in my gut since it happened, and it's just like every time I see her, it's like,
she is
why
pure.
you don't ever like in like the thing that I like when it comes to movies in Hollywood, the thing that is my pet peeve of all time is that when a director spends time on something that doesn't make sense. But in light of that, you end up learning like, oh, if they're putting like a good director, if they're showing something, it should be important to the story or to the development.
This little cutie pie is not evil. Look at this little cherub. It's not evil.
Let's clip
She's
that chat. We'll follow back
need
up.
her, right? She's
Find out. She's been making some kick-ass gear.
She brought snacks to everyone in 5 Point. 5 Point, she didn't have to. She, remade everyone's outfits unnecessary. Got people their weapons unnecessary. Right? Krau's like, bring me food, and she's like, on it.
Not only she's like, I'll make your childhood
so what's
favorite.
the game theory episode on her? Right? What's the game theory diving into?
Oh, that
Tataru?
I think the game theory is that Zodiark, right?
That's Tataru Zodiark.
Is Matt Pat actually doing this now? Like, is he starting to do Final Fantasy content? Because that would be amazing. Come on, Matt Pat.
Matt, don't do it, Matt Pat. I'm gonna have to make a react video that's like, Matt Pat is a fool. A big dumb idiot.
He did Power
Tataru is perfect and pure, and Matt Pat isn't Dumbo.
And then I'll react to that. Let's do it.
Angry Jesse gets 400,000 views an hour.
Yeah.
And then YouTube's gonna be like, go back to being angry.
The most views an hour I got was like 69,000. I'm not joking. Noise. So I'm just like, when you say 400,000, I'm like, there you go. Oh, it's huge. I was just like, man, one day it's gonna hit 400. I'm gonna be like, I don't know how to process.
I will tell you, Heian is a Namatsu.
Never happened again.
If we're just speaking of things, but Heian is a Namatsu. If you go back and look through the story, if you play through Stormblood again, Heian is a Namatsu. Period.
Yeah.
Full stop.
He's the king of the fish. Like, seriously, Chris's like theory on it is 100%. Is flawless.
He is a Namatsu. He has to change back into a Namatsu every so often, and so every once in a while he'll excuse himself to go swimming. Legit. His first response when he has to go talk to some people, he's like, hey, I gotta go talk to these guys. You show up, he's in the water. He has the scar that matches one of the Namatsus. They have the same face scar. We even know which Namatsu he is.
You never see him in the same room.
They've never been in the same scene together. That Namatsu and Heian. Heian is a Namatsu. Full stop.
But what about his dad?
That's what a Namatsu would have you believe.
What? But everyone, they were.
You're getting catfish, Jesse. You're getting catfish.
Chili, thank you for the.
It'll blow your mind.
Thanks for the $2, Chili. Do not slander Tataru.
Don't slander Tataru. That is what a sweet little perfect cherub doing all the work. Really, finally, about time, front and center on some key art. It's about time.
Yep.
The real. I don't understand why people don't.
On the key art.
The real villain, Chloe. Let's talk about this. Collecting all of your legends and stories to learn more about you for one final battle, where she's like, "Well, you've taught me everything I needed to know." Really, Chloe? I'm gonna put this out there. Chloe is Omega 2.0. Watch it happen. Watch it happen.
What if she's just a paid, like, you know how like the old Mafia days that have the kid go get information, right? Rowena's awkwardly everywhere, right? If Rowena's on the moon, something's up. That's all I'm saying.
Profit.
I don't know how we don't have a boss
That's
fight with
what's
Rowena
up.
at some
Profit.
point. There needs to be a Rowena boss fight. There has to be, but it's only for crafters.
Wait, do you think it's going to be like Rowena Musk, who has like the SpaceX ship that's going to get us to the moon?
Back to back. You got to get through
you have to craft
the treasure maps level of like 9 levels of them.
What's your theory after 6.0? Like, what do you think becomes of the game?
I already got this one planned out. I think that the Omega thing we saw in the benchmark is going to be an overworld mob. I think what's going to happen is like the homeland from Omega and the creator is just going to send a siege of robots to attack us, and we're going to have to flee because they're coming to kill off the last dragons because they fled the Dragon Star, and they're just like the Empire in Star Wars, right? So like we're going to go to the moon. It's going to be a moon base, and it's going to transform like a Gurren Lagann.
They're going to do all that in one quest series?
No, like over the course of 6.0 leading into 7.0, it's going to be like the Mericidian Scourge versus like the Omega Homeland people. It's going to be some epic battle of, internet dragons and space robots. I mean, just on the down low. That's what I might
dragons versus robots. Yeah,
some chill dragons versus robots content.
Then where do you see the 7.0 going? Like, how do we get to 7.0 from 6.0?
That's what I think 7.0 is going to do. I think 6.0, like, we're going to end up on the moon, right? And somewhere in there, we're going to have interstellar communication. Maybe Midgard Stormer is going to come back and be like, look, I got these connections, these ties, right? There's this civilization. And we're going to, like, jump to stars.
Yoshimi said in an interview this time around that he was not going to just drop us on another planet, that our relationships along the way would matter post 6.0.
Yeah, that's what I was asking him, because I was like, yo, where do we go from here? Because I very much am like, I feel as much as I want to go explore things like, the other shardy things, which may not even exist at the end of this.
No,
who knows?
That's true.
But you can't hint at Mericidia stuff existing
New
and
World
not show it to us, or you can't hint at New World and not give it to us, which I think would be a fun. It reminds me of Final Fantasy XI when at a certain point they were like, and now we're going to the Final Fantasy XI version of Anime Japan, right? And that was like the new thing, and there was a new story arc and a new villains and new also. So I think it's very easy to be like, now you're headed to the New World and there's new stuff there and it's new content and it's a new story. And you can leave the old world stuff behind because they need to repair and fix things, and it's a mess there, I assume, right? I don't know. We don't get crazy.
Planet
right
needs
away.
to exist, right? Because how else are the cat girls going to AFK Limps if Limps is gone? It's going to have to exist still.
You're totally right that it would have to exist, but also they could. I mean,
yes and no. It does not need to exist.
They could have its story progression destroyed.
That's what I'm saying.
You can literally
shard everything so that we see a different set of NPCs than new players, and we're all in the city together. We have tech now that we didn't have then.
Or they're just two different games existing in two different timelines. It's actually one game. Think about it. Think about logging into the New World, right? Thinking about logging in, and it's like 100 years in the future. And yeah, you can go log in and say, I'm going to go back into this story arc, but then that there's this moment that obviously like maybe Limsa gets destroyed and now you're all part of the New World. And what if the New World was called Vanadil? Like that would be such a twist, dude.
I mean that would be wild. I think it'd be fun if one of the shards, if we ever went to it, was literally just Final Fantasy XI. I think it'd be hilarious if that was the case. But
I'm really hoping one of them is Final Fantasy 16.
That would. I mean, people have been talking about that for a while. That would be interesting if that was the case. I was trying to get Yoshi to talk about it, but
it's hard. It's hard.
But I keep thinking about like this. I always think back to my starting experience and watching other people's starting experiences. And then many times I've had friends be like, I want to play. I'm like, come on, let's play. And they get to like level 15 and are like, oof. And I went back recently. I made a character for this 2.0 video I'm working on. I literally just made Ardbert. And like I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna make this character look like,
sure,
so it fits all the stuff. I'm not gonna pay for it. I'm just gonna go through it because I don't remember the 2.0 story at the beginning at all. And so I started going back through it, and I'm gonna let you know there are some points where you're just like, wow, this is rough. And I keep thinking, wouldn't it be smart is if they did a New World thing to have like a new starting location or a new starting experience? But with that said, because the game's so heavily story based, I'm pretty sure the
retconning would light a fire.
Yeah, like there's no way you can do it, which is both the exciting thing and the downfall for
You
getting
need it to
people
be an
into
on
the
ramp.
game.
It can't be a new starting point. It needs to be a new on ramp onto the story where you are caught up enough, and we give you. Everybody's introduced through this on ramp experience with big long epithets that gives you a general summary of who they are, right? In medias res, we just start you in the middle of the story, and then if you have questions, we say, hey, there's some prequels. Go back and play through 2.0.
That's what New Game
3.0.
Plus is, right? Like there should be if like for example, there's New World, right? Like we're at the New World, whatever it's called. There should be like a colony, and the colony is the starting experience thing for new players.
Have you played
Everybody-
WoW's?
yeah.
Have you played WoW's new player experience? Did you play it after
Yeah,
launch? of
no,
Shadowlands?
that's exactly what I'm thinking about. Is it's the thing with WoW is they
That's
don't.
the best part of Shadowlands.
Yeah, they never give a damn about and like they do time travel. Like you can be in one thing and ignore another. They never.
Oh, that's
care.
true. That's
And
true.
So they made this starting experience that is its own standalone thing. It teaches you what to do, how to play, how it like really holds your hand through all of it, and it's brilliant. You're right; it's absolutely the best part of that expansion. It's brilliant, and I think if Final Fantasy XIV had something like that without all of the like green pop-ups and the walls of text and like learn, giving people something and progressing them faster, so maybe they start a little further in rather than having two abilities. I remember playing.
You don't need to get to level 40 to get your combo finish.
Yeah, like at
Yeah.
I remember when I started leveling ninja, I was like, time out. So at rogue, at level 24, I have 3 abilities. 24 in, I have 3 active combat abilities. Everything else is like sneak and steal. And I'm like, time out. So I'm just pressing 3 buttons this entire time. That seems like such a slow start when you could find a way to drop players in, give them a starting experience, but also give them more abilities and more things to do and learn and that kind of stuff. And if you hold their hand through it, they'll be ready sooner. And I think, yeah, an onboarding or like an on-ramp into that world. And then they're like, yeah, we're dropping you off at this weird ass colony. And there's like 2 zones where you can level up in. And it's like hyper fast getting you caught up. And then if you
Drop
want to
you into
experience
the Hall
story,
of the Novice, and then go into the world, right? Like here, adventure. Here's your combat.
yeah. And
Could
then
be
the
better.
thing about all that stuff is they don't really like. It's there, but no one's holding your hand. And I feel like a lot of people playing games, especially MMOs now, need that kind of like reassurance and need someone there with them to guide them through things in order to get them. Because no matter what, an MMO when you start is overwhelming every time. Every time.
Even when you get to level cap, there's going to be stuff you don't know unless somebody tells you, right? Like snapshotting in this game is not like in World of Warcraft. If you're in an AoE, you're in it. If you're out of it, you're out of it. In this game, it's like you're out of it. Well, I mean, you weren't
Maybe.
a second ago, so you're not out of it.
I think
step one,
Endwalker is
step
actually
into the fire.
resolving a lot of that, though. I think Endwalker is actually resolving some of that with
It's still
collision
gonna be
and
the same due to the net coding.
Okay.
I was testing that specifically with those interactions, but it's things that at that point it becomes crowdsourced, right? It's up to us to educate the new players. And that's where I think Jesse said a while ago where we have a really positive community where there are a lot of people who do that.
We do.
It's not like, hey, idiot, how did you not know this?
well, there are
Right,
those
we're
that
like-
have to do that.
For the bad mentor
Instead, we go,
memes, we have a lot of very good.
We're like, hey,
mentors.
hold on, the game's not great at this. Here's what happens.
I never thought of it that way. That's actually very smart. The reason why the community is so like friendly and tolerant and like willing to educate new players is because the game doesn't do it all that well. And so they've taken upon themselves to offer that to new players. While in WoW, they're so hand-holdy that if you don't know it right away, people are like,
You
you
expect
suck
it,
and you're
right?
terrible.
Yeah.
Get out of my party.
What do you
even
do
read?
here?
Yeah.
Has the Square Enix's relationship changed with content creators?
Definitely over the
last,
last 2 years. 100% over the last 2 years.
I have seen a huge increase just in general engagement, it seems like, right? Like the community streams have always been a thing, and they do interact with, and I mean, they obviously watch content creators and they're aware of what their community is doing, but it seems like they've been more open about it, at least this year.
Yes, calling Alpha Noah Redditor, right? That is a level of open awareness that they have not been that transparent about that in the past.
I wouldn't even say necessarily that. It's just like have you looked at their Twitter engagement, right? Like they're posting memes and stuff when in the past maybe it was just an update for a patch.
There's I think we should specify a difference between Final Fantasy XIV's community engagement and then the rest of Squeenix.
Okay.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. They're entirely different. Entirely different.
Yeah, because one of them, I was like, you know, if you say the whole company, I think they are just as
No.
keeping you in the dark as
Specifically Final
always.
Fantasy 14.
But Final Fantasy 14, 100%, they are like out there in it. And I think, again, this goes back to the whole like Asmund Rich thing. No matter what you think of those two gentlemen, their inclusion in the community has been nothing but good for everyone on a whole. And because let's be very clear. When I started doing my streams of 14 and started, you know, when I was getting to some of the bigger points of the story, I'd be like the #1 stream with like 3,000 people watching. That is the height of what I saw with Final Fantasy 14. No one was watching in that community space. And suddenly these two gentlemen come in, it blew up in numbers, more people took a look at it, more streamers jumped in, more people, and then they gave people like Zeppela a bigger audience, and it you know, it brought more and more eyes to people. I think it's only been good.
It just injected a community.
Yeah, and then you can see over the course of when I started versus now, as the community exploded online, you can see that the team saw it, recognized what it was, and then was like, we need to interact with this. We need to be a part of what's happening now. And I think now they're doing it. It only is good because it shows that they care, that we care, which is phenomenal.
And that's something a lot of companies, you know, there's companies out there who are kind of like, our opinion is the only one that matters. We know better than the players, right? But it seems like, I mean, the Final Fantasy 14 team is just, because we're all like, I mean, how many people do the free trial meme, right? We're all free advertising everywhere we go. And you're right, Justin.
We have
like, you were
in
at the
all
top,
of our videos,
JP,
like, sorry, I was like, we have it in all of our videos, like free trial does not benefit us financially at all. Like, go please try this game. But I didn't mean to cut you off, dude. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. You're fine. The other thing I was going to comment on was I think that the way they handled the pandemic was really well. Like they saw they weren't going to get things out on time with the quality they delivered, and like we need a delay. And then I really do think that, I mean, I've been to the physical fan fests and they're the best thing ever. But I think digital fan fest opened a door to so many people who can't just openly travel to get to the fan fests, and it allowed people to interact with each other on a much wider and grander scale. And it happened at a time where, you know, that happened and then the influx happened, right? And I think just the timing of everything, just the stars aligned.
The Shadowbringers one was free digital. They didn't charge for a digital ticket for the Shadowbringers tour. But the tour was ultimately, we're going to have at a convention. You're welcome to watch.
You're going to watch.
I think
right.
this time
it was more
much
interactive.
more interactive as a digital viewer. It felt much more targeted at the camera and not, we have a camera in the corner of the room, we're going to have a party.
I mean, they even made the custom G-pose things with the contests and stuff in game for you to do. It was awesome.
And like Who Wants to Be a Gillionaire, and some of the events seemed very, very digital themed. There's just moving bed stuff.
Oh, yeah, and they had, you know, they had content creators up for panels and stuff. That was new. That was exceptional.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely something different this time around. The community in general, every aspect of it's bigger. Their involvement's bigger, content creators is bigger, press coverage is bigger. You know, when I'm seeing Final Fantasy get covered in like not just the tech section, but get mentioned outside of the tech section and by some of these press outlets, like it's just bigger all the way around. And it seems to be being handled well. Like sometimes you watch like a celebrity come into a big amount of fame and they just kind of have a meltdown. Like they're not prepared. And other times you see them, you know, come in and they leverage it to work towards whatever their, you know, social objectives are, or to volley their career to an even larger level. And Final Fantasy XIV feels like they've springboarded this into yet another level of fandom instead of it like immediately derailing, which it could have. Like it's with the server issues alone, this totally could have derailed and been a growth that they were not ready for, and could have just spiraled out of control. But it feels like it's gone totally the other direction.
Now, chat's saying that they're a bit worried about maybe the long-term retention of WoW refugees. I mean, again, this is at an Epic post show, so don't feel like we can just keep going. But do y'all have any kind of fear about like retention of this wave?
No, I mean that's
Not at all.
the whole WoW refugee thing. No matter what, whenever a new WoW expansion comes out, you're going to lose a large portion of them. They're going to go back to it because that's what they know, it's what they love. But there will be people who stay, and those people will be passionate and super into it. And that's just the way games work, right? And there's again, people move from game to game to game to game, and I think the people that stay are going to be people you want to stay. If that makes any sense, they're going to
The
be
people who want to be here.
Yeah, they want to be involved instead of people that are just like here because there's nothing else for them to do.
Yeah, Chris has stated this, but Shuri follows it up saying not a fan of actually the term WoW refugee, somebody who actually works with refugees. So I don't know what the term is. But
how about this? A player who is looking for change, basically. Right? Because that's what's happening. Is it's a player who has played something long enough, they're bored. You play a single player game, maybe you play through Mega Man, right? And you're like, all right, I'm done with Mega Man. Let's go pick up Sonic. Right? Yeah. Let's go pick up Sonic. And here it's gonna be the same thing. They're like, okay, and I did it, I played through Cataclysm, and then, when we were waiting for Shadowbringers, I'm like, I don't have anything left for me to do in Final Fantasy XIV. I'm going to go play Battle for Azeroth. I'm going to check that out for a little bit, just to keep my mind going, spice it up, enjoy a story, then come back. And it's going to be the same thing here. And I think also...
Now, did you enjoy that story? Was there...
No.
Okay, good.
Okay, so here's one thing I don't particularly care about.
Okay,
right?
good.
If you level too quickly, you just skip elements of the story, but Final Fantasy kind of makes you go through it. No, I didn't enjoy it. But I did like playing a Vengeance Demon Hunter jumping all over the place, so that was okay.
Battle for Azeroth was the first expansion that taught me... So when I quit WoW in Pandaria. They released the daily caps. They moved to more. My raid group moved to more prep than ever before, and it just eventually got to where it was like I had 35 hours of commitments every week, and then after that, if I had time, I was allowed to play. And meanwhile, there was all these cool pet battles and all this new stuff to explore, and I was like, I want to do all this, and I have a Farmville set up in my little village, and like I'm doing all this, and it's like, okay, so I'll bust through my 35 hours this week, and that way I'm allowed to play. And this is while I was in college, and it's like that's insane. So I quit. It was this immediate relief. When I came back from being a Final Fantasy player. When I came back, I played the game for me, and I didn't really worry about if I got raid slotted or any of that. And it was suddenly, and so I came back at the end of Legion, going with the anticipation of I heard Legion was good, BFA will be great. BFA taught me as an expansion that the meta literally couldn't matter less. Like, raiders think the game is about raiding. Story people think the game is about story. And honestly, I had a blast in WoW for the entire duration of BFA, and I spent almost 0 minutes on Zandalar. I was running old world raids for transmog farms. I got into this thing called Lax, where you run an add-on and it sees how much transmog you can get per hour as a gold score. It looks at the region value and assigns it, and you do it in groups, and it scores you, but you all take your own loot home. And like I went off and discovered all these other different things I'd never done over the years. I just screwed around and I just played a game. So because the mainline content was such trash, and I didn't want to quit, I found another way to have fun. And like and then I brought that back into 14 with me, and now I'm having a blast. Like yesterday I got a glowing frying pan. That helps me zero.
What did Jeff Goldblum say? Life finds a way. So
let's be clear, the reason why I'm doing this ultimate run is I just not
you wanted
for anything else, right? I just want an axe that looks nice.
Yeah, that's why you picked it.
That is
and that's why you're tanking, because I challenged you to do it on the job you want the weapon. I'm like, get the axe, That's all I care about. Is I want that axe, and then I will be like, I don't need to do the other ones. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm good. Like that's where I am. And I know that it's like, well, don't you want titles? Like, no, I'm all right. If you ever want the weapon, it'll be there, right? Like if you want another one,
it's
whatever.
It's not going anywhere. I'll be fine.